pieces?
Look under here.
Oh my god.
And it's been coming out all over.
I mean, this could be like rally over stuff. Oh my god.
Look out, bro.
The Ford is locked up on us.
The Lamborghini Revuelto was meant to be one of the safest decisions Lamborghini had made in years. It kept the V12 and the sound people valued. While adding hybrid technology that pushed total output beyond 1,000 horsepower. On paper, it looked carefully thought out, which explains why buyers rushed to place orders and production slots were filled years in advance. Then the breakdowns began. Not quietly, and not after long-term use. Engines and drivetrains triggered warnings, cars shut down unexpectedly, and problems appeared in situations where a brand new flagship should perform without question. Some of these failures unfolded publicly on YouTube, while others involved owners with deep experience and extensive supercar collections. Very quickly, the conversation began to change. Instead of focusing on performance numbers or futuristic design, people started asking a much simpler question. How well does Lamborghini's most advanced car actually hold up in real-world driving? What makes that question more interesting is that the Revuelto had already shown small warning signs early on. Even before customer cars were on the road, there were moments during development that hinted things might not be entirely straightforward. In mid-2023, spy video surfaced of a Revuelto prototype stalling during high-speed testing at the Nürburgring, reportedly due to a hybrid system issue. Lamborghini engineers quickly surrounded the car, made adjustments, and sent it back out to continue testing. At the time, it looked like a minor setback, but it was a reminder that blending a brand new hybrid system with a high-revving V12 was never going to be simple. Lamborghini stressed that these situations were part of the development process, meant to ensure customers would receive a flawless car. What no one expected was that some of the real challenges would only start to appear once the Revuelto reached actual owners. As more Revueltos reached customers later, in 2024, a pattern began to take shape. In October, a Revuelto in New York City suddenly caught fire and was destroyed. Lamborghini sent investigators to examine the remains, and what they found connected the dots. The fire appeared to start from an oil leak in the engine bay, traced back to a connection in the oil cooling system. The problem was surprisingly basic. On a small number of early cars, screws on the oil line flange had not been tightened to the correct specification at the factory. That meant oil could slowly leak out, and if it reached hot exhaust components, it could ignite. That is exactly what happened in New York, and it forced Lamborghini to act. By December 2024, Lamborghini filed recall paperwork in the United States, officially acknowledging the issue. The recall itself was limited, affecting just 2 cars, likely among the earliest delivered. Dealers were instructed to inspect the oil line connections and tighten them properly. A simple fix. Lamborghini stated there were no known injuries and that owners would be notified to bring their cars in early in 2025. Even as the oil leak issue was being handled, another incident made headlines, this time thousands of miles away. In India, industrialist and supercar collector Gautam Singhania experienced a serious problem while test driving his brand new Revuelto in Mumbai. Just about 2 weeks after delivery, the car suffered a complete electrical failure and shut down in the middle of a busy road. Instead of an exciting first drive, he was left stranded in traffic. Singhania did not stay quiet about it. He took to social media, questioning whether there were reliability concerns with the Revuelto and pointing out that this was already the 3rd case he had heard of where a new car ran into serious trouble within days of delivery. Coming from someone with decades of experience owning high-end supercars, the complaint carried weight. What made the situation worse was his frustration with the Lamborghini's response. He publicly criticized the lack of follow-up from local and regional representatives, saying no one had reached out to understand what went wrong. Other luxury car owners in India echoed the concern, arguing that a brand like Lamborghini should be far more hands-on when issues like this arise. For Lamborghini, it was an uncomfortable moment, especially in a growing market. Lamborghini did not comment publicly on Singhania's case, though it is safe to assume the company investigated the electrical failure behind the scenes, likely tied to the Revuelto's complex hybrid electronics. By late 2024, the excitement around Lamborghini's new hybrid V12 was increasingly mixed with concern. Some dismissed the incidents as early production issues, hoping things would stabilize in 2025. What no one expected was that the most dramatic chapter of the Revuelto story was still ahead, and it would unfold in front of millions of YouTube viewers. Not long after the incident in India, the Revuelto's reliability story shifted from a handful of isolated cases into something far more visible and difficult to dismiss. By early 2025, daily-driven exotics already had experience with problems on their Revuelto. Roughly 5 months before Gumball 3000, Damon had publicly shared that the car had returned to Lamborghini with a transmission fluid leak, an issue serious enough to require dealer intervention rather than a simple software reset. At the time, it was framed as an inconvenience rather than a sign of deeper trouble. That perception changed once Gumball 3000 2025 got underway. The rally launched from Istanbul and crossed multiple countries, placing constant demands on the cars through long driving hours, high temperatures, stop-and-go traffic, and sustained high-speed sections. This year, 2 Revuelto entries quickly stood out, one from daily-driven exotics and another driven by James Walker, who had entered the rally in his own car. At first, both cars appeared to be holding up. There was cosmetic damage, including DDE breaking a front splitter on rough roads, but that kind of wear is expected during Gumball and did not raise alarms. That changed during the Serbia leg of the rally, where problems escalated rapidly. For daily-driven exotics, the first warning signs came through the transmission. Third and fourth gears disappeared without notice, followed by erratic shifting, unexpected gear changes, and drivetrain warnings on the dashboard. The initial assumption was software-related, possibly the transmission control system entering a protective mode, especially since the Revuelto relies heavily on electronic management and the car had not been tuned beyond an exhaust modification. The situation deteriorated without warning. While driving, the DDE Revuelto suddenly locked up, with the rear drivetrain seizing so abruptly that it left visible skid marks on the road. Damon later described the sensation as identical to someone pulling the emergency brake at speed. By chance, the car veered into a lay-by, avoiding a more dangerous outcome. Had the failure occurred moments earlier on a faster section of road or near water, the consequences could have been severe. The dashboard displayed a message suggesting the car could still be driven in a limited range, but the reality did not align with the warning. The rear wheels would not rotate, and although the front electric motors attempted to move the car, the drivetrain remained mechanically locked. Repeated attempts to reset the system, cycle driving modes, or select neutral had no effect. The Revuelto was effectively immobilized in rural Serbia. Almost simultaneously, James Walker's Revuelto developed a separate but equally serious issue. While trying to continue the rally, he discovered a significant oil leak, not light residue or misting, but oil visibly dripping and spraying across the rear of the car. The leak worsened under heat and load, oil level readings began to drop, and topping up no longer registered correctly on the dashboard. Conversations with Lamborghini technicians confirmed that continuing to drive carried real risk, but stopping entirely meant being stranded far from official support. The contrast became especially stark when both cars were stopped together. One Revuelto could not move because its transmission had locked solid, while the other was actively losing oil and facing the risk of catastrophic engine damage if it continued. With no Lamborghini service center available in Serbia, both teams were forced to improvise. Daily-driven exotics waited for hours while finding ways to load a locked-wheel supercar onto a recovery truck, using skates, cables, concrete blocks, and even the front electric motors to inch the car forward. Meanwhile, James cautiously continued, monitoring oil levels constantly, fully aware that a seized engine could result in a repair bill well into 6 figures. The coincidence was impossible to ignore. 2 nearly new Lamborghini Revueltos entered in the same rally, failing on the same day in the same country. The failures were different, but both were serious enough to end the rally if solutions could not be found. For James Walker, the Revuelto's breakdown did not end when Gumball moved on. After narrowly avoiding catastrophic engine damage in Serbia, he returned to the UK with one key question still hanging over the car. Was it actually fixed or just good enough to survive the moment? Lamborghini didn't treat it casually. The company called the car in for a full inspection, removing and replacing the oil line and oil cooler entirely, then sending the original parts back to the factory for analysis. At the same time, the Revuelto received a major factory software update, bringing its systems from a 2024 configuration to the latest 2025 specification. Alignment, tires, and all core systems were checked, and only after everything came back clean was the car officially signed off as safe to drive. In James Walker's case, the failure triggered direct manufacturer involvement, upgraded hardware, and updated software. The problem was acknowledged, addressed, and closed. But what happened to daily-driven exotics Revuelto after the rally is far more surprising, and raises even bigger questions about Lamborghini's most advanced car yet. For DDE, the Revuelto's failure did not end with the tow truck in Serbia. In many ways, that was only the beginning of the problem. With the car completely undrivable and no Lamborghini service center in the country, the Revuelto was left stranded in Serbia on a flatbed. That immediately created a new set of issues. The car was leased, worth well into 7 figures, and now stuck outside the rally route, outside warranty support, and facing insurance deadlines. As the rally continued, DDE were forced to finish Gumball in borrowed cars, while simultaneously trying to solve a logistical nightmare behind the scenes. Unlike James Walker's situation, there was no quick diagnosis, no overnight fabrication, and no clear path forward. Lamborghini Assist was contacted, but no technician arrived. The transmission remained locked solid, making even basic recovery difficult. Moving the car across borders required someone to physically sit inside it during transport, adding legal and insurance complications most owners never imagined dealing with. By the end of the rally, the contrast was stark. One Revuelto was repaired, upgraded, and signed off by the factory. The other was still immobilized, thousands of miles from home, with its fate unresolved. That difference is what makes the DDE case more unsettling. The failure was sudden, severe, and left a brand new flagship supercar effectively abandoned mid-rally. Not because the problem was minor, but because there was no immediate solution at all. By the start of 2026, the Lamborghini Revuelto had been through what could only be described as a trial by fire, in some cases, almost literally. Oil line defects, electrical shutdowns, and transmission failures are not the kind of stories any manufacturer wants attached to a brand new flagship. It is also important to keep perspective. These failures, while serious, affected only a small number of cars compared to the overwhelming demand for the Revuelto. Lamborghini's order books stayed strong throughout, even as videos of broken down supercars circulated online. Buyers continued lining up, which speaks to the strength of the brand and the appeal of the car itself. Where the stories diverge is in how the problems played out. In James Walker's case, Lamborghini stepped in directly, inspected the car, replaced hardware, updated software, and returned it to the road with factory sign-off. The issue was acknowledged and resolved. Daily-driven Exotic's situation was very different. Their Revuelto failed suddenly, remained immobilized for an extended period, and required private recovery efforts before formal warranty evaluation could even begin. The lack of an immediate solution is what made the case so unsettling, not just the failure itself. Taken together, the Revuelto's early reliability issues highlight the risks of launching an all-new flagship built around unfamiliar technology. Some problems were corrected quickly, others exposed gaps in readiness when things went wrong far from official support. Whether these incidents become footnotes or lasting concerns will depend on what happens next. If later, Revueltos prove durable over long-term use, the failures of 2024 and 2025 will likely be remembered as early growing pains. If not, they will stand as a cautionary example that even the most advanced supercars can stumble in very ordinary ways. Tuna No Crust, signing off.